The Truth About Goblins. Chapter 45. How did the market always fill up so quickly? It had hardly been an hour since Annie had left the apartment, and already the streets were swamped with crowds. Where did they all come from? Her question was answered as she came within view of the market's east gate. From behind the wide-open door, the guests spilled onto the street, sometimes in twos, sometimes in large groups, and sometimes, rarely, a straggler would enter alone. Whether they were human or not, Annie couldn't tell. She knew from previous conversations that there was a healthy population of goblins above ground as well as below. The market attracted all types. Marching against the flow of the crowd, she fought her way to the gate. So many shoppers entering the market. She seemed to be the only one leaving. Did she really want to do it? There was nothing preventing her from returning to the apartment. It had been hard enough convincing Ophelia to let her leave in the first place. But she was determined. She wasn't going to sleep on the couch in a storage room forever. There were answers out there, answers to questions that had been tugging at her mind since arriving at the market. Lying awake through the night, she realized that despite all she had experienced in the past few days, those questions were not about to go away on their own. Now that Timothy and Sapphira were gone, there was no one holding her back from finding out what she wanted to know. No one, that is, except for Kit. But she didn't want to think about him, not now. She was tired of being around him. It was impossible to keep up with his spirit, his relentless insanity. The roller coaster of emotions during the past week had proven to be more than she had bargained for. Even if she was a goblin, even if, according to some, she shouldn't have been affected so deeply by all that had happened, she felt as though something inside her had been jolted awake. And it made her uncomfortable to know that Kit had more to do with it than she cared to admit. Of course, these thoughts flew past her like a flash of lightning, and she barely hesitated as she came closer to the gate. She wasn't about to let her feelings get the best of her. At last, she arrived at the tunnel's opening. The great door seemed to welcome Annie as she took a bold step into the tunnel. But as she glanced to her right, she noticed that one of the sentinels on duty was making his way over to where she stood. As he pulled her off to the side, she offered no resistance. She knew better than to wrestle against an arbiter. Standing by the tunnel's wall, she waited for the man to speak. "What do you think you're doing?" he said, clearly confused. "You should wait until the rush is over before trying to go the other way." She relaxed, realizing that the guard was only trying to help. "I'm in a hurry," she said, eyeing his mask with some nervousness. "I want to leave as soon as possible." "I can certainly see that." Sensing her discomfort, he pulled down his mask to reveal a polite smile. "But you won't make any progress if you attempt to use this tunnel now. It's a lengthy walk to the nearest lift, filled with hell-bent crowds all traveling the opposite way." He shook his head. "It would be best to wait it out." His answer disappointed her. "I don't want to hang around too long. I have a long way to go." "Do you now?" He crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. "Where are you off to, if I may ask?" Thinking it wouldn't hurt, she pulled out a little note from her pocket. The guard looked it over and frowned. "It's far enough," he said, handing it back to her. "But you're only going to make things harder for yourself if you try using this gate." He pointed to the note. "The market you're looking for is in the opposite direction." "I thought this was the east gate," she said, reading over the note once more. "It is," assured the guard. but Redstone Market lies to the west. Oh, I guess I got my directions wrong. She looked to the sentinel, but he didn't seem at all judgmental. I guess I'll have to go across town. He nodded, but stopped her as she turned away. Before you go, I happen to know some travelers passing through here. In fact, one of them mentioned to me as they came in that they were on their way to the exact market you're headed for. He smiled again. I think they're leaving tomorrow. Why don't you see if you could tag along? That way there won't be any danger in getting lost or taking a wrong turn. Before she could interrupt, he added, You might not even have to go above ground to get there, if the group knows about the tunnels. I'd say it's worth the wait. Annie didn't like the idea of traveling with strangers. At the same time, it seemed a sensible thing to do, especially since she only had a vague idea of where the address was and how to get there. Staying with company would be the safer bet. Sounds like a sweet deal, she admitted. Where's this group staying? I'm not entirely sure, he said. But I think they reserved some rooms at the inn just south of here, the little one. Maybe if you offered to work for your stay, the owner would give you a place for the night. Not a room, mind you, but somewhere to sleep. She pursed her lips in thought. That would work. You said this place was south of here? Yes, he replied, replacing his mask. Look for the sign with a green fire drake. You can't miss it. Thanks, she said, stepping back into the crowd. I'll do that. Happy traveling, he said, watching as she disappeared into the throng. It was all coming together. If she could get a place amongst the group, half the struggle of the journey would be taken care of. She pulled out the piece of paper and looked at the address that Saphira had given her, her parents' address, her real parents' address. She wondered what they would be like. Hi, I'm your narrator, Miranda Eastwood, also the author of The Truth About Goblins. If you liked this chapter, remember to add, follow, or subscribe to this channel so you can hear the next one. And if you didn't like this chapter, oh well, I can't really do anything about that. In any case, I just thought I'd let you know about my Patreon. You can check it out if you'd like to throw some support my way. It would mean a lot to me. Not to mention there's loads of extra exclusive content that I only post on Patreon. While I'm at it, I'll mention that The Truth About Goblins is now available as a complete audiobook, and you can get it wherever you get your audiobooks. Thanks for listening.